We're in Saudi Arabia tonight as the economic cost of this war rises. Donald Trump ups the pressure on other nations to step up.
Iran can't hold your economies hostage.
The demand for more warships to give oil tankers safe passage, or else NATO could be at risk. And as Iran retaliates, pressure too on the Gulf.
What would it take for Saudi Arabia to get into this fight?
The potentially dangerous decision facing this Middle East power.
And the Prime Minister pushed on whether he would send Canadian troops to defend Greenland sovereignty.
We will back that with measures as necessary.
The show of solidarity with Nordic nations. Patrolling Canada's north, we're inside a military exercise to defend our Arctic border.
We have to be prepared, we have to stand our grounds, and so we protect Canada, right?
The security preparations in dangerous conditions.
From CBC News, this is The National with Erica Johnson and Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Thanks for joining us again from Saudi Arabia. After more than 2 weeks of fighting in this region, the U.S. and Israel together striking thousands of targets tonight, the Trump administration is looking for a little help in the Strait of Hormuz. This weekend, Donald Trump has been demanding other countries send ships to help keep the vital oil corridor off Iran's coast open. Tonight, the reply from those countries is muted. Iran denying there are any talks with Washington on a ceasefire or anything else, as it holds a fifth of the world's oil and gas supplies hostage, spiking global energy prices. Late tonight, the U.S. president's warning NATO could be at risk if allies refuse to help, even calling on China to comply. Chris Reyes now with what's at stake.
The Trump administration ratcheting the pressure up for countries to step up to secure the Strait of Hormuz.
That's what President Trump is calling upon the world, saying the entire world is affected. Iran can't hold your economies hostage. And we certainly welcome, encourage, and even demand their participation to help their own economies.
On Saturday, President Trump made the claim that many countries will send ships to the Strait, that demand increasing late Sunday. In an interview with the Financial Times, Donald Trump warning that NATO faces a very bad future if allies fail to help the U.S. in Iran. When pressed for details late Sunday, Trump said this.
Well, I can't say yet. It's a little early. They were contacted today and last night. But we've had some positive response. We had a few that would rather not get involved.
Iran continues to threaten to strike any ship that travels through the crucial strait, effectively shutting down transit of a fifth of the world's oil, shaking global markets and putting pressure on the U.S. to secure it. On Truth Social, Trump wrote, hopefully China, France, Japan, South Korea, the UK, and others that are affected by this artificial constraint will send ships to the area. So far, some of those countries have publicly supported the idea of such a mission, but have been cautious with their commitments.
There are a range of things that we can do, including autonomous mine hunting equipment.
U.S. ships, coalition ships, hypothetically, would have to escort oil tankers more or less on a one-to-one ratio.
This expert says a mission like that would not only be risky, but ineffective. Normal traffic through the strait numbered at more than 100 ships a day.
There are not enough ships in the navies of the Western world and perhaps other countries like South Korea or Japan to protect every single oil tanker that crosses the Strait of Hormuz.
This chokehold on the strait has become a major pressure point for the Trump administration, now facing more and more questions over a conflict that's beginning to hit Americans in their pocketbooks.
And Chris, the comments from Donald Trump and other members of the administration this weekend all seem to be saying that this is a problem they will solve.
That's right, Adrian. Another Trump official, economic advisor Kevin Hassett, also went on the defense today, insisting that the U.S. had planned for a temporary disruption of the strait. He added that he thinks the conflict will end soon, but the energy secretary, when pressed, said there are no guarantees on when prices will fall.
Okay, thank you, Chris. That is Chris Reyes in New York. The Pentagon has confirmed the identities of the latest 6 service members to die in this war, including 3 members of the Ohio National Guard.
Our Ohio National Guard family is grieving. We lost 3 exceptional airmen in a tragic KC-135 crash in Iraq, and our hearts are extremely heavy.
The other 3 were members of an air refueling squadron based out of Alabama. All of them were killed when their air tanker crashed in Iraq on Thursday, according to the Pentagon, after a collision with another tanker which landed safely. In total, 13 U.S. service members have been killed in the war so far. Now, Iran has issued an evacuation order, effectively, for those in Dubai and Doha who live close to U.S. bases and American interests. Given the attack so far, no one will take those warnings lightly. Tracking the soaring damage here, both physically and financially in the Gulf, is getting dizzying.
Again, chasing missiles over the skies of the Middle East. Parts of Tel Aviv and surrounding cities burning from direct hits and falling debris.
Always crowded places. They're always targeting crowded places.
This video released by Israeli police. Iran insisting it does what's being done to it. These are Tehran neighborhoods hit by strikes over the last few days. No signs of a diplomatic off-ramp, certainly not from Iran's foreign minister.
No, we never asked for a ceasefire, and we have never asked even for negotiation. We are ready to defend ourselves as long as it takes.
Gulf states, knowing anywhere connected to American interests are targeted, are furious. Some cities on lockdown, Kuwait banning parties, weddings, large gatherings. Not so here in Riyadh. Despite waves of drones intercepted over the city day and night, you sense no panic. The Saudi military is formidable and joined by a British unit specifically tasked with shooting down drones. That's part of what keeps this Gulf state feeling safer, but not the only factor. If you wonder how and why it is that Saudis say they feel safe, look at this buffer. This desert wraps itself around Riyadh. Sometimes geography is a gift. It certainly is right now to the Saudis. Persistent alerts about incoming drones here in Al-Harj, near some sensitive sites, are not a concern. Mohammed Dasri is part of a $20 billion camel farming industry here. His eyes are only on the future. Everything related to camel business is a good investment now, he says. The government support became greater than before.
In the last 2 weeks, have you heard anything or seen anything of the war?
No, he says. Citizens here aren't really in a position to talk about how they feel about this war. Political analysts want to.
We know that
Salman al-Ansari says the kingdom is angry and so far restrained.
What would it take for Saudi Arabia to get into this fight?
Yeah, there's no one clear-cut answer. If the Saudis would decide to enter with complete force with regards to this war, Iran is definitely going to be the biggest loser, because Saudi Arabia will activate its bilateral defense agreement with Pakistan.
Pakistan is a nuclear nation.
Absolutely. We can say it literally, that there is a nuclear umbrella over Saudi Arabia.
That's some warning to
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
As it enters its third week, this war is starting to feel more, not less, dangerous.
Northern Iraq has also been a target of Iranian fire because of the thousands of anti-regime Iranian Kurds who've taken shelter there for decades. Margaret Evans shows us why they fear their days in Iraq could be numbered.
The unease in northern Iraq is spreading. The U.S.-Israeli war against Iran drawing ever closer. For these Kurdish Iranian opposition fighters who've enjoyed sanctuary here for decades, it's not close enough for them to make a difference. But Tehran and the Iraqi militias supporting it still send missiles to attack them.
Because we are Kurd and we are against the regime of Iran. These are parts of the drone.
Efsaneh Rahmini shows us the remains of a drone that hit their camp last week.
You can see.
She's a mother, a fighter, and part of a broad coalition of Iranian Kurdish rebel groups on both sides of the border. But reports they're preparing to instigate an uprising at the behest of Washington are premature, says Baba Sheikh Hosseini, a party leader. Destroying the Iranian regime is not for us alone to do, he says. It should be America, Qatar, Saudi, Oman, and Iraq. And so in the camp, they wait, and their Iraqi Kurdish hosts worry. The Iraqi Kurds carved out autonomy for themselves after the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003, and they want to keep it.
Iran is just on the other side of the mountain range behind me, and the Iraqi Kurds on this side of the border are trying very hard not to get drawn into the conflict. They've told Iran they won't allow armed Iranian opposition groups sheltering here to cross over the border.
Their numbers estimated at a few thousand fighters. Dilshad Shahab is an advisor to the Kurdish regional presidency. We have a relationship with the United States, he says. We have a relationship with Iran, so we are not taking a side. Even though the threat of Iranian attacks has shut down oil fields, causing power cuts. Instead, he blames the central government in Baghdad for failing to rein in pro-Iranian militias. So do the men in this crowd, waiting at a rare cash point with electricity. Everyone here is afraid of the war, says Osman. Baghdad destroyed the situation here, not America. It reflects renewed fears for Iraq's Kurds, even as they celebrate Ramadan, worry that the autonomy they've built for themselves inside Iraq is at risk. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Northern Iraq.
5 members of the Iranian women's soccer team who had sought asylum in Australia have now decided to return home. Australia announced the departure overnight. They were part of a group of 6 players and a support staff member who had accepted humanitarian visas to stay in Australia after the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran. Only 2 players now remain in Australia. And the Iranian state news agency described the women's return as a failure for Donald Trump, who had called on Australia to grant them asylum. More people, Erica, who have clearly found their lives totally tied up in this war.
And Adrian, it's still a struggle to get a real picture of what is happening inside Iran.
It's a huge struggle. Interestingly, you saw that foreign minister being interviewed today. It was by video call, and the host made the point of saying, your signal works very well when Iranians have had their access to the internet cut off. You know, from the few messages we're getting from people in the country, they are terrified of the risk, both from the airstrikes and from the Revolutionary Guard. That regime still has, by their accounts, a very cruel grip on people, also a grip on trade routes in this region. So we're going to look at that in particular a little later. But for now, Erica, it's back to you.
Thanks, Adrian. The Israeli military now says the brother of the man who attacked a Michigan synagogue last week was a Hezbollah commander killed in Lebanon earlier this month. The attacker took his own life after driving into the synagogue outside Detroit and exchanging fire with security. Officials had previously said his family members had been killed in an airstrike. The Prime Minister is in London tonight after wrapping up his visit to Norway with a meeting of Nordic leaders. And as Catherine Tunney shows us, Greenland was a big focus.
Between the crosses of the Nordic flags, a maple leaf, as 5 Nordic leaders and Prime Minister Minister Carney convened in Oslo to discuss trade, security, and Arctic sovereignty.
We are united by our shared values.
This following U.S. President Donald Trump's threats to take over Greenland. Carney was asked pointedly by Danish media whether Canada would send troops to defend the Arctic island if needed.
We stand foursquare behind the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, being absolutely clear about that, being clear that we will back that with measures as necessary.
Canada has not yet sent any troops, but Denmark has bolstered its military presence in the quasi-independent territory, and other allies have sent troops through a military exercise.
One of the reasons why we have been able to stand firmly on very common values, that you have to respect sovereign states, that you have to respect a people's right for self-determination, is because of our good friends.
Denmark's prime minister even singled out Carney by name.
Especially you, Mark. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for that.
Trump has largely backed off his threat to take over Greenland, which has pushed the Nordic bloc closer to Canada, another target of the U.S. president.
And I'd like to also to say that this is responding to threats which are unacceptable in general, but even more unacceptable among allies.
And Iceland's leader points out the annexation crisis as sharpening countries' commitments to Arctic sovereignty and a refocus from NATO, calling attention to northern security.
We've been worried about Greenland. We're obviously worried in general about the situation in Europe when it comes to Ukraine, but we're not afraid.
Carney is now here in London, where he'll sit down next with the UK Prime Minister to once again discuss security and defence. Then, an audience with King Charles. Catherine Tunney, CBC News, London.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has also been out of the country, touring the Detroit area as he prepared to announce his strategy to help Canada's struggling auto industry. JP Tasker shows us what Poilievre laid out today in an Ontario city hit hard by tariffs.
In Canada's car capital, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is pitching an auto policy he says can save the industry.
We can't just wave the white flag.
Amid U.S. President Donald Trump's punishing tariffs, Poilievre wants to slap his own levies on automakers that do not assemble vehicles here at home. Under the proposed plan, if companies build a car in Canada, they can bring in another one made in the U.S. or Mexico duty-free.
This would create a powerful incentive for them to relocate and repatriate production back to this country.
Poilievre also wants to drop the GST on Canadian-made cars to spur demand for vehicles like the Dodge Charger.
We will bring our factories roaring back to life. Our plants will be humming.
But the Conservative policy is premised on Trump dropping his tariffs on Canadian autos, a tall order from this president.
We don't need cars made in Canada. We don't need cars made in Mexico. We want to make them here.
Stark new data showing the Canadian industry is in peril. Auto exports are roughly half of what they were at this time last year.
That's very bad. You can think of it as an abstract number, auto industry exports. Wait a minute. Those are people's jobs. Those are jobs that my next door neighbors have.
This industry expert says the Conservatives are late to the game. Trump's tariffs have been in place for nearly a year, and Poilievre has proposed few solutions until now.
It is a serious matter, and that's why simplistic, get-rich-quick type solutions are not necessarily the right things to do.
He says the industry must look beyond the U.S., something the federal government is working towards.
We know that U.S. tariffs have upended the bargain.
Carney is relying on a series of tax measures to attract new automakers. And on Friday, Chinese auto giant BYD said it may build a new plant in Canada. After largely ignoring Trump and his trade war for the last year, party sources tell me Poilievre is deliberately making a pivot. He's ready to tackle Canada-U.S. issues head-on, as polls suggest it's still what some voters care about most.
And Pierre Poilievre is traveling to the U.S. for the first time as leader, JP.
He was in Michigan, next he's going to Texas to meet with energy executives, and then there's a stop in New York for a speech. And while one of his MPs, Jamil Jovani, met with Trump earlier this year, Washington is not on Poilievre's itinerary. Erica?
Thanks for this, JP Tasker in Ottawa. It's Hollywood's biggest night, the 98th Academy Awards.
Somebody take me.
We're in Los Angeles covering the big winners next. Canada's wheelchair curlers are Paralympic champions.
He's got cold blood in his veins, man. He just made a beautiful shot.
Their buzzer beater win in our moment. Plus, the Prime Minister hints at more funding for Canadian elite athletes.
There is just so many sports in parasport that rely so much on equipment.
We're back in 2.
I am Conan O'Brien, and I'm honored to be the last human host of the Academy Award.
A peek into the star-studded celebration happening in Hollywood tonight. This is the 98th Academy Awards. Plenty of laughs, plenty of performances, and a whole lot of big wins. The Oscars are, of course, the biggest night in film. And this year, Canadians are among the big winners. Eli Glasner is outside the Dolby Theatre tonight. Eli, take us through some of the big moments.
Well, the show was expected to be a big battle between one battle after another and the movie Sinners, and it was the movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio, One Battle After Another, that is going home with the most Academy Awards, 6, including some of the biggest prizes: Best Picture, Best Director. Very emotional. Paul Thomas Anderson accepting the award for this remarkable film about the burden of living a life as a revolutionary. But I would say some of the most emotional and historic moments came from the 4 Academy wins that Sinners, the movie by Ryan Coogler, took in, not only making history with the first female cinematographer to win at the Academy Awards, but also Michael B. Jordan winning, beating out Leonardo DiCaprio and Timothée Chalamet. Erica, I've been covering the Oscars for over a decade, but the sound that I heard backstage with the jaded members of the press when they announced Michael B. Jordan as the Academy of winning Best Actor, remarkable people on their feet cheering, and then very emotional Michael B. Jordan paying tribute to others who paved the way before him.
I stand here because of the people that came before me. Sidney Poitier, Denzel Washington, Halle Berry, Jamie Foxx, Forrest Whitaker, Will Smith, and to be amongst those giants, amongst those greats, amongst my ancestors, amongst my guys. Thank you, everybody in this room and everybody at home, for supporting me over my career. I feel it.
And Eli, a lot of love for Canadian talent there too tonight.
Another equally emotional moment where Maggie Kang, the co-director of K-pop Demon Hunters, won for Best Animated Feature and talked about what it meant.
Thank you to the Academy and to all the fans who got us here. And for those of you who look like me, I'm so sorry that it took us so long to see us in a movie like this. But it is here. And that means that the next generations don't have to go longing. This is for Korea and for Koreans everywhere.
We also had Canadians winning for the makeup and hair in Frankenstein, for the short animated film set in Montreal, The Girl Who Cried Pearls, and a very beautiful moment with Rachel McAdams paying tribute to the long, dearly departed, but oh so missed Catherine O'Hara, talking about the comedic genius that we lost last year. Just one of many very powerful moments in memoriam.
Thanks for this, Eli Glasner in Los Angeles.
The fears about undersea mines planted by Iran in the Strait of Hormuz are growing.
Contact mines can be quite devastating depending on the size of the vessel and the cargo they have.
The challenges of mine warfare, next.
And our Radio Canada colleagues are in the north on patrol with Canada's Rangers.
Nothing works up here. You know, like vehicles have a hard time, people have a hard time, food has a hard time. You know, so we have to learn how to adapt.
What it actually takes to defend the Arctic. The National breaks down the stories shaping our world next. Dramatic moments as a Maui couple's dream home collapses into a raging river. Days of rain and high winds have pummeled the Hawaiian Islands, leaving a trail of flooding, landslides, and property damage. Even farmers flooded out of their fields for days have been forced to make rescue runs to salvage animals and supplies. The storm is expected to end sometime Monday. The Prime Minister says Ottawa is planning to increase funding for athletes. It comes as the curtain closes on the Milano Cortina Games, marking Canada's worst Olympic and Paralympic medal showing in decades. As Jennifer Yoon reports, competitors say the money is essential to elevate the next generation of medalists to the podium.
Done. The women win in
Another Canada-US face-off in a gold medal hockey game once again, ending in heartbreak for Team Canada. The Americans winning the para-ice hockey game 6-2.
I love that we got to do this with this group of people, man.
As the Milano Cortina Paralympics come to a close, Canadians are celebrating some golden moments.
And there we go.
Like in wheelchair curling and in parabiathlon. While acknowledging these games haven't been the best for Canadians, finishing the Paralympics 8th in the medal standing, Canada's worst showing in decades. It's led Prime Minister Mark Carney to hint at plans to revamp funding for Canadian athletes over the next 6 months. He says he wants to catch up to the most successful nation in Winter Olympic history.
Right. We're going to be more like Norway in that year.
We really need to see what those details are.
But athletes are waiting to see what that will look like, some advocating for athletes to get paid better.
We really need to see an increase in Sport Canada funding so that they don't have to go out and get second and third jobs.
There is just so many sports in parasport that rely so much on equipment.
Others, like this para runner, hoping some of that funding goes towards gear.
Having the top-of-the-line equipment that is going to get you there is so important.
All this comes days before a long-awaited report on the future of sport in Canada. A preliminary version of that report was scathing, calling Canada's sports system broken, rife with abuse, and national sports organizations working with diminishing budgets to try and meet increasing expectations. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back to Saudi Arabia's capital, Riyadh. To the east, one of the world's most strategic trade routes remains effectively closed. And that's where we begin the breakdown.
Contact mines can be quite devastating.
Fear and threats paralyze the Strait of Hormuz. The United States says it has destroyed Iranian ships placing mines in a vital trade route.
The biggest challenge of mine warfare is the plethora of unknowns.
As the war enters its 3rd week, we'll break down why mines in that corridor would be both devastating and difficult to remove. Andrew Chang, host of About That, looks at what mines Iran might have access to and the threat they pose.
I want to show you some strike footage from U.S. Central Command. These are what it describes as Iranian naval vessels being hit at long range, but they just kind of look like speedboats, don't they? Well, you wouldn't know it by looking at them, but these are the types of boats that are capable of bringing down an oil supertanker, or maybe even an American warship. Because Iran has retrofitted ships like these to be able to lay underwater mines, which are a top priority for the US right now.
They just have to put 3 mines in there. And once an area is mined, it's never technically unmined.
After days of speculation, the US now firmly believes Iran is laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. If true, it would mean Iran is doubling down on the single most damaging way it has retaliated against the world, which is to block this crucial waterway, right on its southern doorstep, where 1/5 of the world's oil flows out from the Middle East. It's serious enough to have caused the US military to change course. From the president, if Iran has put out any mines in the Hormuz Strait, we want them removed immediately. Less than 1 hour later, the Secretary of War, at the direction of President Trump, Central Command has been eliminating inactive mine-laying vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, wiping them out with ruthless precision. 2 days later, an update from CENTCOM that now they're not just targeting mine-laying ships, they're also striking factories and warehouses where these mines are made and stored. Let me explain why these underwater mines are so devastating and why they're so hard to remove. In past videos, I've talked about how one of the world's most critical waterways also happens to be one of the easiest to disrupt. That's because of what you can see very clearly from up high, which is that it is incredibly narrow, a tight 2-lane shipping route, one way in, one way out, with very little room to navigate, and its entire length under the thumb of Iran, effectively its entire southern border. What's less obvious is how shallow the water is in the Strait and the Persian Gulf, only a few hundred feet deep, which, when you take all of these things together, is what makes mines in this choke point so effective. Iran is estimated to have thousands of underwater mines in its arsenal. In 2019, the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency put that number at more than 5,000. Just its inventory, not counting how many more it might make. 5,000 including contact and influence mines. Let me explain the difference between those. Contact mines are the ones you typically see in movies. Those big spiky balls moored to the sea floor by chains, made buoyant with a pocket of air, and positioned at just the right depth to make contact with the underbellies of the ships you're targeting. These are very cheap to make.
Mines in general are very cheap. Contact mines, especially so. We could be talking about costs in the low thousands of dollars, and they can inflict millions of dollars in damage.
Now let me show you the contact mines Iran is known to make, the Maham-1. There are several in the series, but they all work the same way. They float, they can be chained in one place, and note the contact horns with primers built in which detonate the bomb when dislodged. These can hold up to 120 kilograms, 260 pounds of explosives.
Contact mines can be quite devastating depending on the size of the vessel and the cargo they have.
The result is a gouging out a large part of the ship.
A second type of mine, though, influence mines, are a whole other kind of technology. You can think of them as smart mines. The Maham-2. These can be planted right into the sea floor where they listen, ready to detonate with up to 3 times the explosive force of the Maham-1. They work because ships, especially big ones like oil tankers and destroyers, they generate magnetic fields. They make noise. They displace water. They change the water pressure around them. And so these smart mines have sensors that detect these things. And once they found a target, they explode. And depending on the mine, it's not even the explosion itself that breaks the ship. It's the rapidly expanding bubble of gas, like a shockwave, traveling faster than any human can react, 1,000 or more meters per second. That has such explosive force, it can literally break a ship's backbone in 2.
And what it does is actually pick the ship up and then drop it. And what that could do is actually break the keel, break the hull. It'll cause massive shock damage through the vessel. It is the most dangerous way to damage a ship. It's probably the one that most fear.
Iran is believed to have these mines. Then there are the types of mines that combine everything I've mentioned so far together. The Maham-3, moored, buoyant, and equipped with magnetic and acoustic sensors that allow it to listen in all directions, so that as a ship passes by, it can not only detonate at precisely the right moment to cause maximum damage, it can also be programmed with different sensor thresholds to target only certain kinds of ships, even submarines. As for actually getting these mines in place, according to U.S. intelligence, Iran has equipped many of its Ashura small boats with mine rails, capable of holding at least 1 mine. Rails that would allow you to roll mines off a speeding boat like bowling balls, and the Ashura-class speedboat, fast, compact, agile, and cheap.
The problem with mines is it can be deployed by almost any platform. And the concern you have is small speedboats, which can carry, up to a few mines and deploy them. Maybe more ominously, fishing boats, which kind of blend in out there, having sailed through the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. Fishing boats are everywhere, and they don't always fly a flag for what nation they belong to. Small coastal vessels can be out there. You can use commercial vessels to do this. You can potentially drop them by helicopters, aircraft, and maybe even free fall rockets or missiles.
And what's really frightening for the US military is that Iran's mine technology doesn't even need to be as sophisticated as I've laid out to be really effective. This is a limpet mine. You could hold it in your hand, like a dinner plate. A combat diver would take one underwater, attach it magnetically to a vulnerable part of the ship, pull the safety like on a grenade, and once the diver's clear, boom.
We could see potentially, small fishing vessels go in, divers or remote vehicles being used, because you can create a very cheap kind of remote vehicle that just sails and plops up alongside of a ship and attach that mine.
And we know all of this, by the way, because Iran has used these weapons before, even in this exact area, just beyond the Strait of Hormuz in the Gulf of Oman. These are headlines from 2019, when several merchant ships were attacked. Iran believed to be behind it then, and poised, apparently, to do so now again. The challenge for the US military is that these mines are just about as asymmetric as war can get. And by that I mean, Iran could spend as little as a few $1,000s building a pretty rudimentary mine that maybe doesn't sink a ship, but it damages it and executes what's called a mission kill, in that it causes just enough harm to force the target to turn away, to go for repairs, abort mission. The US could try to sweep the water for mines, but that's not only very difficult, it's very time-consuming.
It will take weeks, if not months, if there is an active minefield in the Persian Gulf, because you cannot do that under enemy fire. You have to do that under at least some form of ceasefire, then you can operate a mine clearing operation.
And literally, if you don't find them, that's not always the most comforting thing, because maybe you've missed them.
And so the US is confronted with this very familiar problem whenever it faces weaker opponents. And that is, as with open combat, the US is powerful enough to win eventually. Like in the Strait of Hormuz, it could position its navy nearby, use sonar, even autonomous robots to scan for mines, detonating them one by one from a distance. Or it could undertake a huge sweeping campaign where you literally drag equipment through the water, equipment meant to mimic the signatures of large ships, triggering mines with brute force. And you don't even have to remove every single mine. You just need to clear a lane, right? Mark them with buoys, create just enough space for shipping traffic to resume until Iran lays another mine, who knows where.
The biggest challenge of mine warfare is the plethora of unknowns. It's unclear how many mines are in the water if you haven't observed them being moved or dropped. It's unclear where the boundaries of the minefield are. Is it even a distinct minefield, or mines just distributed over a wide area? Then where the mines are specifically, of course, is deliberately a mystery.
It takes a grand total of 0 mines to create a minefield. It's just the threat of a mine requires you to go in and begin sweeping.
This is maritime guerrilla warfare, where success for Iran isn't about how many ships you can blow up. It's about how many ships you can make too afraid to be useful as ships at all.
The foreign minister of Iran says it has been approached by countries seeking safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz, and that Iran is open to discussions. We'll have to watch where that goes. That is it for us in Riyadh. It's back to Erica in Vancouver.
Coming up, Canada's armed forces expanding its footprint to defend and deter against new threats in the Arctic.
It's going to be very difficult. We're going to be getting into minus 40, possibly minus 50 when we hit the top of these mountains.
What Canada's northern defense might look like. Next. We're in Canada's north for a military exercise to patrol the landscape. This as Ottawa is planning to boost defense and its presence in the region where local experience is crucial.
We're teaching them our knowledge, how we live our life on the land, especially in this kind of weather. It's very, very dangerous.
Radio Canada's Julia Paget traveled to the Northwest Territories to see firsthand Canada's readiness to defend the region in extreme conditions.
Hi.
Hey, Julia, nice to meet you. Hi.
Paige,
We traveled to Inuvik in the Northwest Territories to meet with the Canadian Armed Forces. They agreed to let us take part in one of their military exercises in extreme conditions.
Extremely slippery, like being on ice. Yeah.
Here, in the Arctic, it's the cold that's extreme.
The Arctic doesn't reward speed. It rewards patience, awareness, and teamwork.
The group we're following is the Canadian Rangers. They include both military personnel and members of local Indigenous communities. Their mission is to maintain a Canadian presence in the most remote parts of the country.
It's going to be very difficult. We're going to be getting into minus 40, possibly minus 50 when we hit the top of these mountains. If you're on the back of a sled and your toes are cold, you need to tell your driver, I'm getting cold. Okay, it's very important.
The Rangers are preparing to leave on the longest patrol in their history. They will spend more than 2 months traveling by snowmobile from Inuvik in the Northwest Territories to Churchill, Manitoba.
Nothing works up here. You know, like vehicles have a hard time, people have a hard time, food has a hard time. You know, so we have to learn how to adapt and overcome these challenges to be able to thrive up here. And it's nice to see Canada investing in this at this time.
The history of the Rangers dates back to the Cold War, when the Canadian government was looking for ways to defend the Arctic, a vast and sparsely populated region. The solution was to recruit members of local Indigenous communities to patrol their own territory. It was both economical and strategic. Rangers could use their own equipment, with the military providing just a rifle, and they were also the best positions to detect threats on land they know better than anyone.
The way I explain it is that Rangers are members of the military, but they're not military members.
Do you sometimes imagine that, think about what an invasion would look like?
No. If they're on planes or on ships, if there's large scale, that's a different story. But if they're dismounting those ships and they're coming here by foot, there's just going to be, it will be like a diorama of frozen people.
Mount up, guys. Mount up.
We left Inuvik at 8:30 in the morning, with a 10-hour snowmobile ride ahead of us to reach Fort McPherson.
So you have like hundreds of people out here in the north patrolling. Is it worth it? Like, what does it bring to Canada?
It doesn't really matter what's happening on internationally, domestically. We need to be patrolling the north. I think you understand who's in your country if you're actually patrolling out there, which I think is pretty important for defense.
The fragile diplomatic balance that once existed between Arctic countries broke down after Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. Tensions are also intensifying because of climate change, which is accelerating the melting of sea ice and opening access to resources and new shipping routes coveted by Russia and China. Donald Trump also caused alarm when he spoke about annexing Greenland, an island that is part of Denmark, a US ally. According to Trump, it would be a necessity to confront the threat posed by China and Russia.
Canada gets a lot of freebies from us. Canada lives because of the United States, remember that.
Trump also criticized Canada, saying it wasn't doing enough to defend the Arctic. But after years of military spending below NATO standards, Mark Carney has promised to invest nearly $85 billion more in defense over the next 5 years. That's a level of spending not seen since the Cold War.
5 minutes!
A few kilometers before reaching our destination, Rangers from Fort McPherson joined us. That's how the patrol works. From one community to another, local Rangers take turns guiding the group across their territory.
Donna! Hi, Donna. Yes, Master Corporal. We're teaching them our knowledge, how we live our life on the land, especially in this kind of weather. It's very, very dangerous.
We got to be prepared. We have to be prepared. We have to stand our grounds, and so we protect Canada, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why we're here.
Do you think a foreign nation could ever invade or attack the Canadian Arctic?
Yeah, I thought of it. Yeah, we just keep an eye out, right? So we watch. So we stand guard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every day. Every day.
And last week, Ottawa pledged more than $35 billion toward Arctic security, including new operational support hubs and airport upgrades. Coming up, Canada's wheelchair curlers take the gold.
It's a dream come true. I mean, that's what we participate in sport for, right? And that's why we're Paralympians.
A perfect throw that led to their incredible win. Next, in our moment. You're looking at Canadian wheelchair curlers Mark Idison, Ina Forrest, and Kalinda Joseph moments after their big win in the gold medal match against China. This is Canada's first gold medal in wheelchair curling since 2014, and it all came down to a final throw with seconds on the clock. Tonight, their gold medal win makes our moment.
Taking it in.
And there we go.
The moment is we have to shoot it or we lose. That's what we kept saying, and we're like, shoot it.
We got only 30 seconds left. We have 15 seconds left. You got to do something. So he finally threw it.
with only 2.8 seconds left, I managed to get it away, and it just felt right out of my hand, and it worked out in our favor, but it was a heck of a game and a crazy finish.
I always believed in him. He's got cold blood in his veins, man. He just made a beautiful shot.
To get that goal or to reach that podium and to have the anthem play, it really is emotional.
No country has won more hardware and more gold medals than Canada.
Playing for your country, that's the most beautiful part of the whole thing.
It's a dream come true. I mean, that's what we participate in sport for, right? And that's why we're Paralympians.
What a nail biter. And that was Canada's 4th gold medal in Paralympic curling. And right after that incredible win, Mark Idison was named flag bearer for the Paralympic closing ceremony, along with Natalie Wilkie, and the two of them carried the flag for Canada this afternoon. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. I'm Erica Johnson in Vancouver. Take care.